Lauren Mitchell knew her marriage was over, the moment the room key card in her hand suddenly stopped working. Behind her, laughter echoed through the corridor of the luxury cruise ship as it sailed across the icy waters of Alaska. Daniel stood among his relatives, smiling, without the slightest hesitation, without a single explanation. Lauren tried scanning the card again. The red light kept flashing. The door remained locked. Behind that cold metal barrier were all of her belongings, documents, and personal possessions. But what made her heart turn cold was not the door. It was the look in the eyes of the man she had been married to for 11 years. He knew about this, and he was enjoying it. For years, Lauren had always been an outsider in the Mitchell family. At every gathering, every vacation, every conversation, there was always an invisible line separating her from everyone else. The jokes aimed at her, the knowing glances exchanged across the room, the laughter that suddenly stopped whenever she appeared. Every time it happened, Daniel repeated the same excuse. That was simply how his family showed affection. Lauren had tried to believe it. Until today. At the far end of the hallway, Daniel's sister Megan held up her phone and started recording. Several other relatives laughed with amusement. No one intended to help her. No one believed they had gone too far. But there was one thing the entire Mitchell family did not know. The woman they had always looked down on was never as weak as they believed. And that very moment, standing locked outside that cabin door, would uncover secrets this family had hidden for years. Secrets powerful enough to destroy everything. When the trip finally ended, the Mitchell family returned home with a new story to laugh about at future gatherings. Lauren returned home with a truth she could no longer ignore. The video of her being locked out of her cabin quickly made its way into the family group chat. Every time someone brought it up, the laughter started all over again. Daniel never apologized. In fact, he seemed annoyed that Lauren could not simply move on. To him, it had been nothing more than a harmless joke. But during the quiet nights that followed, Lauren began looking back at her entire marriage. One memory after another came into focus with startling clarity. The times she had been dismissed. The important decisions that had been made without her. The sacrifices that had gone unnoticed. Then one evening, while reviewing financial records in preparation for tax season, she noticed an unfamiliar transaction. Then another, and another. Soon she discovered accounts she had never seen before. Lauren's at frozen. Secret loans. Credit cards opened in Daniel's name. Financial commitments made on behalf of members of his family. The total amount was larger than anything she had ever imagined. The most painful part was not the money. It was the fact that Daniel had hidden all of it for years. While Lauren worked tirelessly to save for their future, he had quietly used her stability to solve his family's problems. For the first time, every piece of the puzzle began falling into place. She finally understood why they had always wanted her to stay, not because they loved her, but because she was the person quietly holding everything together. 3 months later, Lauren filed for divorce. When Daniel received the papers, he simply laughed. He was convinced she would change her mind, just as she always had before. But this time was different. The woman who had spent years trying to keep everyone happy was gone. And her departure was about to unleash consequences that no one in the Mitchell family saw coming. 2 years after walking away from that marriage, Lauren rarely thought about Daniel anymore. Her life had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The small tourism company where she had once started as a manager had grown into a well-known brand throughout the region. Lauren had become one of its most important shareholders. But the most valuable thing she gained was not success. It was peace. The feeling of waking up every morning without fearing humiliation, disrespect, or emotional pain. Then one afternoon, her assistant stepped into her office. Someone had been looking for her for months. That person was Daniel. Lauren remained silent for a few seconds before agreeing to meet him. When the office door opened, she barely recognized the man standing before her. Daniel looked much older. His eyes were tired. His face carried the weight of deep regret. He placed a thick stack of papers on her desk. Messages that had never been answered. Apologies sent over the course of many months. Then Daniel began explaining what had happened after Lauren left. The debts spiraled out of control. Financial disputes divided the brothers. Relatives turned against one another. The family that had once prided itself on unity had been reduced to endless arguments and blame. For the first time, Daniel admitted something he should have understood years earlier. He had spent his entire life seeking approval from his family. And in the process, he had lost the one person who had always stood beside him. Eventually, Daniel asked if there was any chance they could start over. Lauren looked at him for a long moment. There was no anger left. No pain. Only calm acceptance. She thanked him for the apology, but gently explained that forgiveness did not mean going back. The woman who had been locked outside that cabin door years ago no longer existed. Daniel lowered his head. Perhaps he had known the answer before he ever arrived. As he walked out of her office, Lauren watched in silence. And for the first time, she truly understood something. The worst day of her marriage had also been the day that saved her life.